Good morning. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to show you today a live presentation about the GRIMM 11D, the DustDecoder, our latest invention of the portable aerosol spectrometers. So, what I'm talking about today is this portable nice instrument. Yeah. And why do I talk about this nice instrument? Because we started about 30 years with this one. Yeah. So this was one of the very first GRIMM aerosol spectrometers, already portable, a little heavy, with a lead battery. And we started in the early 90s. And it didn't last very long. And then I can show you something what makes me really very happy. So this is the first scientific publication with a GRIMM aerosol spectrometer used. And this was published in 1994. So we have about 25 or 30 years of experience in scientific work with our aerosol spectrometers. And this didn't stop somehow, because 6 weeks ago, this is the latest publication, yeah, from Masic in former Yugoslavia, in Sarajevo, and he used our new 11D device for the first time, or for the first publication we found. And between this 26 years, we have hundreds of very interesting, successful applications of our GRIMM devices all over the world. So it started with the 1101, yeah, 30 years ago. And then soon we improved the sizing of our instruments. And the very successful 1108, yeah, we started in 1998, 1999, yeah, was our most sold portable aerosol spectrometer so far. 15-channel aerosol spectrometer, and it was, as I said, very successful. Yeah? And still, we improved our quality, and we continued. We switched to a 31-channel instrument, the 1109 or 11A, and later then the 11C, where we included some modern features like Bluetooth communication or other storage possibilities. And GRIMM also tried to move a little more into better design with our 11E and the 11R. But at the end, we had really a lot of different aerosol spectrometers. 15 channels, 31 channels, green one for environmental monitoring, silver, golden, blue one for indoor, all with different measuring values. And when I came back to GRIMM 4 years ago, we decided, together with the sales, that we will take all the advantages of our instruments and put them in one new device. And that was the beginning of the 11D, and that's why I will talk today about the 11D only. Yeah, and so it was a nice time, but goodbye. We don't need you anymore. Yeah, this is over, and so let's focus on the 11D only. So, what are the differences between the 11D and the former instruments? So let me start first. Inside, we have a completely revised electronics and optical components. So we improved all the components we could with high quality surfaces, for example, for optical components, with modern electronic circuits, and inside also it looks like an old GRIMM device. It's inside completely new electronics and optical components. Second thing, what is really different, the GRIMM 11D measures and calculates all the values already in the device. So what you get on the internal storage or what you get on the port telegram, it's completely identical. Third thing we changed, it's no more operated with a lead battery, but it is operated with a high quality lithium-ion battery. And so we use this new type of battery, which we use many years successful in our minibus instrument. And with this battery, you are able to operate the instrument for up to 10 hours without recharging. The next thing what is really different, because we changed to a new power supply, we also changed the concept of charging or powering the system. Here I have 11D set, so that's what you get, of course, with the instrument. And if you buy a 11D set, you will realize that you will get 2 power supplies. So you get one power supply for a desktop charger to charge in up to 2 to 3 hours your battery. And you get the second power supply to power your instrument for continuous operation. And this is again different to the instruments before. For the former GRIMMs, we use 18 voltage power supply. And now we use a 13 voltage power supply. So please, all GRIMM users or customers who use 11C, 11A, 11R or other devices, don't use the old power supply with the new GRIMM. You can do it, but it's better to use the new power supply with the 13 voltage only. So last but not least, there are some more really important differences, and that is what you get with this device. With the GRIMM 11D, you will get 12 dust mass fractions. Not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. No, you will get 12 dust mass fractions. And this is unique all over the world. Yeah? There might be other devices where you get 4 or maybe 5, but with the GRIMM, you get 12 dust mass fractions, which are reproducible, calculated according to existing guidelines for environmental monitoring or for indoor monitoring or air quality. So what you get is the following. You will get 6 dust mass fractions calculated with our successful environmental algorithm, which is total suspended particles, TSP, PM10, PM4, PM2.5, PM1, and the PM cores. These 6 mass fractions are calculated in the same way as we calculated for the 11E or the 107 or the EDM 365, our environmental product line. And if you want to match with the 11D values to the former environmental instruments, we strongly recommend to use an external temperature and humidity sensor, because we need the temperature to make some corrections on the flow volume or on semi-volatile losses on the mass fractions. So we highly recommend to buy not only the 11D set, but also to buy additional temperature humidity sensor if your application is environmental, short-term monitoring. And the difference to the former environmental instruments, you can operate the 11D without the sensor. Yeah, it is not blocked as before, But if you want to match the environmental mass fractions, we strongly recommend to use it with the temperature humidity sensor always. So I explained to you these 6 environmental mass fractions, but there are another 6. So these other 6 fractions are the one we use for the 11R, the 11A, the 1109, so the IAQ fractions: inhalable, thoracic, respirable, according to the EN 481 with the specified inlet flow rate. And then we have another 3 PM values, the PM10, PM2.5 and PM1 again, but these 6 mass fractions with the indoor algorithm you can adjust using the internal gravimetric filter in the back of the instrument if you compare the calculated mass from the instrument with the gravimetric value from the filter. And these 6 mass values I explained to you can be adjusted with this calibration or C factor. So again, to repeat it, because it is a little complicated maybe. Former years, you have to think, what is my application? Which instrument fits to my application? Do I need a green instrument for environmental monitoring? Do I need a portable instrument for indoor? Do I need a mass fractions? Or what is my application? You can forget about this now because the 11D included all the possibilities we had with our former instrument in one device. And this is, as I said before, unique feature. So let me explain to you what you get if you order a 11D set. So first of all, the scope of delivery, you will get this very nice aerosol spectrometer. It is already with the battery installed and with the USB storage stick also installed. There is no more SD card or no more PCMCI card, no more LED battery as I explained. So these 2 items, the lithium-ion battery and the USB stick, are already installed. Second, what you get, you will get the 13 voltage power supply for continuous operation. And then you will get the desktop charger from the manufacturer of the lithium-ion battery with a separate power supply. And this is all labeled, so you cannot mix or misuse this. And it's also clearly separated in the transport case. Charging is on the one side and continuous power supply operation is on the other side. Then there are some more accessories you always need if you want to operate your 11D. So there is the data GRIMM cable with the USB connector if you want to connect it to a PC. But of course you also can operate the GRIMM with Bluetooth as we managed for the previous devices like 11R, 11E or 11C. And finally, you will get a box with all the smaller components which are included in the 11D set, which is the zero filter, which are a package of 25 filters for the internal gravimetric control, and of course, what we also strongly recommend, the radial symmetric sampling head. So with the radial symmetric sampling head, you assure the correct inlet speed for the occupational mass fractions, inhalable, thoracic, and respirable. So, and last but not least, of course, you will get a nice carrying case, So all the items have their place in the case. You will get software, of course, with the license key and the manuals for both the software and the hardware. So, now I explained to you about the scope of delivery and the differences to former devices. So, if you operate a 11D, you will realize that it is very similar to previous GRIMM devices, but it is not the same. Why? Because again, we included all the advantages and all the features we had from former devices in the 11D. So that means with the 11D, you are again able to make 1 second fast measurements. With the 11D, you can change the interval with the keypad. And this is very new with the 11D. You also can change the displayed values during the operation. So if you switch on the device, the instrument switches into so-called filter check mode, where you have to answer with yes or no whether the internal filter was changed. And in this short or special mode, you also can change the measuring interval from 1 second, small or high, to 6 seconds, 1 minute, and so on. And you can check the serial number, you can check the runtime, and some other features. After the filter questions, the instrument switches in the standby mode. And in the standby mode, you can change or edit all the settings, like date and time, alarm values, or location numbers, the displayed values, and so on. So in the standby mode, all the display values and settings can be adjusted or changed. After you finish your settings and you press the standby or start key, the instrument will start with the self-test procedure, which takes about 35 seconds. And after that, the device will switch into the measuring mode. And it will show you either 2 of these 12 dust mass fractions or the total counts, or one of the 31 size channels, which is the raw data for the mass calculations. So all in all, you have a huge number of information which you can use for your application, for your scientific work, for your workplace monitoring, for environmental spot monitoring, mobile measurements, and so on. And we are quite proud that this instrument was launched in the late 2018, and meanwhile we have about 300 devices sold, again, all over the world. So if it is possible, Volker, to switch to laptop or to share the screen of the laptop, I would like to show you also some software applications, or give you some impressions of the software, because finally this is also something what is completely new. With the GRIMM 11D, first time we programmed one software, a new software, which is suitable for one model only. And this was also a completely new way, because before the time you had one software for a huge number of different GRIMM devices, almost all those devices I showed you in my introduction. Now with the 11D, you have a very similar software with some advanced features, and this software is suitable for the 11D model only. This is a big advantage in terms of quality assurance, and it is also a big advantage in terms of implementing changes in the software system, and we have a very nice feedback from customers, and I'm proud to tell you that we have a quite new release of the software where the wide range application, a combination of the GRIMM 11D with the nano SMPS systems from GRIMM, was improved. And there's a second improvement because we managed to stabilize the Bluetooth connections between the device and the Windows system, which is operated by your computers. Okay, if you open the software, you will realize that it looks very similar to before. So the color concept and the highlighted and gray buttons which you can use or which are blocked. So it is the same as it was before with the other softwares. And I already connected the device with Bluetooth. And if you know the port, you simply can select the port, yeah, and select the one. So as I did. And if you don't know, you can scan all your ports, but I strongly recommend simply to check the port which is used by your Windows system and device. Second, you can, as before, change the sampling interval. For example, 6 seconds or 1 minute or 5 minutes or what else. And of course, you also can switch to 1 second, as I explained before. So as the former GRIMM devices like 1108, 1109 and so could do, the 11D can do this option again. If you switch to 1 second mode, yeah, you have either the small size range, yeah, or the bigger size range. And to show you the data as today, for this talk, I switched to a 6 second mode because then we have all the size range from small particles, 250 nanometers, up to big particles, 35 microns. Oh, by time, what I forget to tell you, there's another improvement with the 11D, and we switched to a log normal equidistant channel spacing. This is the same concept which we use for all the time already with the nano devices, and now we use this log normal spacing also with the aerosol spectrometer, but you will see it later on when I explain the software. Okay, after the data, this sampling interval was selected, yeah, you switch to K, and then you can put in the user settings, yeah, and you simply have to select the file path and the file name and some additional information, and then it's fine. And if this happens, then you made a mistake with your Windows system. And this is not necessarily a problem with the GRIMM software, but this is always a problem with your Windows system. Because if you start a software and you don't have the fully access to the directories, the software will warn you, because then your data could not be stored on the file path which you have selected. And if this occurs, you have to restart the software as an administrator. That's what I will show you now. You stop the software, exit the program, you start just the software, with the right click as an administrator rights for your selected directory. So again, you select the COM port as before. And if you connect your device with Bluetooth, you will get 2 clicks. Yeah. So you will get audio check. Yeah. The device LED on the front panel will flash blue. So this is the indicator that it is connected with Bluetooth. And after all the connection is checked, you will get OK. And you can close this panel. And that's where we have been before. But now, if you go to this again, you will see no problems anymore. Yeah, because you will have the fully rights to use this directory. So, and now we can start the device and start the data storage. By clicking the Start Device button, it takes about exactly 35 seconds for the self-test procedure, where all the optical and pneumatical components are tested. And if there's any problem with either the laser or with the photomultiplier or with any other component, the GRIMM device will not go or will not switch into the measuring mode. So, and now I show you what I explained before. With this distribution of the number size distribution, you can easily see what it means to have a log normal equidistant spaced channel distribution. You can see all the right bars from the number concentration per channel have the same width. And the area below this curve, or the red area, is proportional to the number concentration. So it's very nice to have a quick overview with this graph, with the distribution graph, to see what's your number size distribution looking like. And these data are measured with the 11D. It's the so-called raw data set. And then the software converts these data, for example, in a particle surface distribution. So here you will get the surface of a particle size class, and software also converts the raw data in the mass distribution. So here you will see the particle mass size distribution. And only these green values and the blue values are calculated by the software. The other data, so the number size distribution, and of course the mass fractions I explained before, they are already measured or calculated inside of the device. And with the overview menu, you can easily check all those information I gave you before. So you have a total number concentration divided in small and coarse particles. And then you have the 6 mass fractions calculated with the indoor air quality algorithm. And you have another 6 mass fractions, as I explained before, calculated with the Enviro algorithm. And in addition, you will have the values of temperature, humidity, temperature inside the cell, humidity inside the cell, battery capacity, and motor current. On the right side, you can see the number concentration for each channel, which you can edit or select. And of course, beside the overview and distribution, you also can show this data on a table format, either for the counts per channel with the lower particle diameter of a channel and the differential or particle number concentration. And as I explained before, the mass fractions, environmental mass fractions, TSP, PM10, 4, 2.5, 1 cores, and inhalable, thoracic, respirable, and we have to scroll to the right part, the IAQ mass fractions, PM10, PM2.5, and PM1. You also can switch to a calculated mass distribution. So this is particle mass per size channel. And as I explained before, these data are calculated by the software and then displayed and stored on the online data set. And you can use this later on for your evaluation and analysis of the data. In the log file, you have additional informations like error codes or location number and the data from the external sensors. And what is maybe very interesting for most of people is this time plot menu. In the time plot, you have again a lot of different options what you want to display. Let's start with the raw data, with the counts. So you can select different channels by clicking on the diameter. So this is again the lower diameter of a channel, and you can select up to 6 channels, I think. And the data are updated according to the sampling interval you have selected. In this case, every 6 seconds. And you can easily switch from the counts per size channel to the mass per size channel. And so only by using here this slider, you switch from the number concentration particles per liter to the mass concentrations microgram per meter cube. In the next menu, you can use the calculated or display the calculated mass fractions. And again, like for the overview option, you have one window for the environmental PM fractions. I switch to the log scale, then you can see that they are not identical, not at all. Yeah. And you can mark or unmark the 6 values by changing the colors or by unmarked the line. And you can switch also to the other 6 dust mass fractions, the inhalable, thoracic, respirable, occupational fractions, or the other PM data. And as you can see, for example, comparing here the green, magenta, and gray line, which is something about 10 microgram per meter cube and about 3 to 5 microgram per meter cube. These PM data are not identical with the environmental PM data. This is very important. So beside those 3 values, counts and mass, PM values for enviro algorithm, IAQ values for occupational algorithm, you also can display additional information if you connect the sensors for temperature, humidity, the internal pressure sensor, or other informations like the total weight of the filter or the measurement volume from your measurement. Another menu, which is still in the software and which was implemented several years ago, is the statistic window. You will get here key values of each measurement with the number of data sets, with the minimum and maximum value, the range, a mean value, and other values we use for the whisker plots. And if I switch to the whisker or box plots, you will get here, you can see the values, and 50% of all the data are within of this box. The red dot is the maximum value or the minimum value, and the whiskers indicate the upper 20% of the values or the lower 25% of the values. And these whisker plots you can use for the mass values for environmental mass, but also for the occupational mass. And if such a whisker plot is symmetrically, then you have normal distribution of your aerosol, or it's, let's say, unaffected or aerosol distribution. So this gives you a very quick overview about the aerosol you measure. Also integrated in the statistic option is the mean value slider for the PM values and the occupational mass fractions, where we simply calculate the arithmetic mean value of this measurement number. And what's also really nice with this software, you can switch from all data to a certain interval, for example. So if you measured during your time frame a certain time, and you are interested, for example, for the first half of the data only, you can calculate these values not with the total number of data, yeah, but simply, for example, you can switch here to another time, and then you have to calculate this data, and the data are different. So this software gives you also the possibility for a very quick data analysis online at your sampling site in the field. And I will show you now again an option which is unique for the GRIMM aerosol spectrometer, because we measure very small particles but also big particles. And if I generate some big particles, yeah, for example, with a textile tissue or something similar, yeah, what I'm doing right now, you can see in the number concentration and in the mass concentration that there are immediately differences. Before, there were only a small number of coarse particles on the right side of this graph, but if you generate coarse particles, then this is immediately monitored by the GRIMM device, and you can indicate this either in the distribution graph or, of course, in the time graph, where you have now on the right side of your data set a huge increase in this mass fractions. But as I explained to you, I generated big particles only, so the increase is in the inhalable and thoracic fractions mainly, but it is not so strong, for example, in the PM1 fraction or in the respirable fraction. And a completely different effect. Yeah, you can show if you don't generate coarse particles, but if you generate fine particles. So, where do fine particles come from? No, fine particles come from combustion aerosols. And if I generate particles by combustion, we will get a completely different effect. And the GRIMM is able to differentiate where the particles come from because we have 31 size channels. If I go back to the distribution now, we have also an increase for the small particle fractions here on the left side. And if you go to the time plot, you will see that now also the small mass fractions, like here magenta, the PM1, yeah, increase really strongly. And I was a little careful in generating particles, but I will do some more particles and make a much stronger effect now. And this is also something where you can prove if your device is a real aerosol spectrometer or a low budget sensor only. Because if you have an aerosol spectrometer, the device should be able to differentiate between the different sizes, particle sizes and mass fractions. So we do not calculate, let's say, from a PM10 value to a PM2.5 value, but all the mass fractions we measure are calculated on the basis of a measured number size distribution. And you can see here in this time slot that all the mass fractions increased, and also those containing only the small particles. So we have about 250 micrograms per meter cube of PM1 and PM2.5. Why? Because we generated very small, tiny particles. And again, this is an option you can also analyze immediately with the box plot charge or with the mean charge graphs if you switch to the time frame or the time which is interesting for you. Of course, these options are not completely new, but we included the successful options from the former software versions 11.7.8 to this 11.7.9. And yeah, so now by explaining to you the new features and advantages of the 11D, the scope of delivery, the changes from the handling, and some first brief impressions from the software use, I'm through with my planned content. Of course, I would recommend simply ask our sales specialists at GRIMM either for an offer of a complete 11D set, or please don't hesitate to use our demo and rental options. We have several devices in stock where you can test or use to check whether this device fits to the applications you want to work. And finally, I would like to thank all the participants of this live demonstrations. And if you have additional questions, so please don't hesitate to use the email or contact GRIMM directly, either me personally or my colleagues from sales like Achim Edfelder, Volker Ziegler, Max Übach, or If you're interested in the smaller particles, of course, also Frank Teddy or Gerhard Steiner. So thanks again at this Wednesday morning for our first live demonstration about this really unique and nice device. And have a good time, and we are looking forward to continue in a chat room or with some email communication today, tomorrow, or whenever you are interested. Thank you.